Short stories. The best kind of stories out there. They have just enough to be satisfying, but not so much as to seem intimidating. Just the right amount. So today, I will be talking about the short story Horses by Heidi North Bailey. Not because it's the shortest one, but because it was the one I liked the most. So let's get to it. The story is set during the summer at an old decrepit house inland. The scenery has, quote, hills, boring trees, and some cows, end quote, and no beach. The house is a dark brown and, quote, stuck in the middle of a lumpy paddock, end quote. On the inside of the house, the floorboards are creaky and the rooms are in poor condition. A bedroom is described on page 39, quote, an empty room that had once been painted light blue. The window looked like it was glued shut. I looked up at the ceiling. The dirty white paint was coming off in huge flakes, end quote. In the house's backyard, there is a sad washing line above dead grass. This is described as the, quote, only thing in the backyard for miles, end quote.
Oh my God!
This story is narrated in the first person by an unnamed character. To make this easier to understand, this unnamed character is now to be known by the moniker Cheese. Cheese is shown to be narrating because of the use of the pronouns I and my. This indicates that the story focuses on Cheese's point of view. This is also exemplified by the fact that the story only focuses on Cheese's feelings and thoughts. For example, it shows how Cheese feels about the house being so far away from the beach. Quote, I wanted to tell Dad we couldn't live here. It was impossible. I dug in my pockets and felt the tiny grains of sand in the creases. We were beach people. We lived by the sea, end quote. Only Cheese's feelings and thoughts are explained thoroughly, while other characters' feelings and thoughts are explained through facial expressions and cues.
Oh my God!
In this story, there are 4 major characters. The real estate man, the dad, Josie, Cheese's little sister, and Cheese. The real estate man is described as having a very clean car with electrical windows. He wears a suit and gumboots and has shiny white teeth. His voice is described as, quote, that stupid old person voice, all bright and shiny and fake, end quote. He is shown to pity the father and his financial situation when he is showing doubts about the house later in the story. The dad has a car with broken windows and never wears suits. He is shown trying to be optimistic for Cheese and Josie by saying, quote, we can paint it, just imagine, any color you like, end quote, about a room in poor repair. The dad is then shown to be hurting emotionally. Quote, he shut his wallet quickly when he saw us, but I saw the corner of the photograph, and I knew what he'd been doing, end quote. He misses his wife and is trying to be strong for his children, but can't seem to handle everything at once. Josie is described as stupid and emotional by Cheese. She has hazel eyes and listens to her sibling when they tell her to be quiet. Josie is often described as trying not to cry, like in these passages. Quote, but then I saw tears welling in Josie's eyes. She stood beside me silently, her little face quiet, end quote, and, quote, I could tell she was trying really hard not to cry, end quote. She follows her sibling throughout the house and relies on them for support. Cheese, however, doesn't have that many physical descriptors attributed to them, but they have many about their personality. They hate, quote, the stupid real estate man, end quote, and his, quote, flashy pants car, end quote. They don't like the new house. They think of their family as beach people that need to live by the sea. They enjoy pinching their sister, and their mom is implied to have passed away. Cheese takes responsibility for watching over their sister and taking over for their dad. They tell their sister not to say anything negative about the house so their dad is not discouraged. They also have a grown-up face they put on when having to be the bigger person. This is shown with both Josie and her father. Cheese also has a very detailed coping mechanism to deal with saying things they shouldn't say out loud. This is detailed in the passage on pages 39 to 40. Quote, I glued my mouth shut with invisible glue like I'd learnt to in the past few months. I got a little thin line of imaginary glue and put it between my lips. Then I had to not breathe while I counted 20 banana seconds, and then the glue would be set and all the bad things would stay inside me and not come out." End quote. Throughout the rest of the story, the glue is brought up every time Cheese knows they should respond to someone. At the end of the story, they break their glue silence and say that they love the house to stop their dad from saying something to the real estate man.
Oh my God!
I liked this story because it was the one I connected to the most. I understand what it's like to be in Cheese's position of having to be the support system for everyone in the family. I also liked how it was written. It truly sounds like it's coming from a child's perspective. The way things are described, like the real estate man's voice and the glue method, are very childlike and create a greater emotional impact when Cheese is forced to grow up to accommodate their family's needs. The last paragraph of the story was the most relatable to me. Quote, "I love it," I said, loudly. It was surprisingly easy. I turned and looked at Dad. I gave him my new grown-up smile. "We can have horses here." End quote. This part of the story was the most relatable because I understand what it's like to grow up too fast. Cheese is shown to have grown-up ways of dealing with grown-up problems while they still have childish behaviors. For example, they are childish in the way they explain the glue silence, but are grown up in the way they handle the moving situation. They are also used as emotional support for their dad and sister. I also found the difficulty to process a move relatable. Cheese labels the beginning of the story as, quote, "the summer we moved inland," end quote. Throughout the story, they find it difficult to accept that they are moving so far away from the beach. About 2 years ago, I had to move from my childhood home. I had a hard time accepting that I wouldn't be spending the rest of my childhood in the home I grew up in. It was a hard adjustment for me to make, and it is why I found this story so relatable.
Oh my God!
To me, the message of the story is that stressful or hard to understand situations can force a child to grow up too quickly. For example, the tough situation in horses is many things stacked on top of each other: money troubles, recent loss and death, and a big move. Cheese feels responsible to help their family take on the financial and emotional struggle, though it was no one's intention to make them feel this way. By using the metaphorical glue to silence themselves, they don't let their father know how they are feeling about the new move or the recent loss. They notice things quickly, like how their sister is close to crying and how their dad looks at the picture of their mom, and they try to improve or settle the situation. This is shown by them saying they love the house at the end of the story. Even though they don't really like it, Cheese puts their feelings aside to help their dad be optimistic. They are, by no one's fault, pushed into the role of emotionally supporting their family. Okay, I think I read a little too deep into this one, but that's just how the story sounded to me. Analysis is subjective, right? I hope you enjoyed my a little too deep analysis into this silly short story. Though it made me a little emo, I loved it the most out of the 3 I read. Anyway, go outside, do some yoga, make yourself a little gift, and most importantly, you too can have horses here.